what do you get if you combine two extremely powerful builds? Do you get something that's even more powerful? And what do you call a hybrid build based on having both Intelligence and Dexterity as your primary damaging stats? An int dex build, a dex int build, a Spellblade, a Battlemage, a mage with a sword, your mom? Well, today I'm going to go over the most powerful Intelligence and Dexterity mix build that you can make right at the start of the game. When we hear int dex, a lot of people will automatically think about the Moonveil. Probably one of Elden Ring's most popular weapons, because it's just that good and you can get it practically at the start of the game. But what if I told you that there is an even stronger type int dex build, relying on a different weapon instead of the Moonveil, that you can make at the very start of the game, but it's rarely ever mentioned, and one of Elden Ring's most OP forgotten builds. And at the same time, you can still use the Moonveil in its most optimized form within this build, and you can even use both weapons at the same time with great results, which is why I will also showcase the Moonveil in this video. Welcome to my Samurai Mage build, the absolute strongest int dex or Spellblade build that you can make at the start of Elden Ring. This is my Get OP early guide for the prisoner. It's the class that fits the Intelligence and Dexterity hybrid build the most, as you start out with high levels for both of these stats, making it functionally and thematically the best class for a Spellblade build. For your keepsake, you want to pick up the Golden Seed, it's just the best. An additional Flask at the start of the game is just too good, especially if you use a lot of FP, which is definitely the case with builds that use Sorceries. Now when you load in, you will see that you'll start out with a well-rounded kit. The Prisoner is pretty much the intelligence-based counterpart of the Fate-based Confessor in terms of what you start out with. You get a shield, a very decent sword, and a staff that does the job. Nothing too crazy, but overall just a very nice kit. The sorcery that the prisoner starts out with is, in my opinion, the best aspect though. The magic glint blade is just really that good, especially early on in the game. So definitely keep it in the roster of sorceries you want to use with this build. It has a delayed way of dealing damage to your enemy, which gives you the possibility to cast it tactically. So for example, casting it preemptively, and you will just get the damage in very reliably and safely like that. This also makes it possible for you to just destroy enemies that are much higher in level than you. But all of this combined is just not good enough. We definitely want to get the most out of a Spellblade build and push it to a much higher level to truly unlock its power. The first thing you want to do is get your horse as always at the gate front side of Grace by talking to Melina, and then go to the Dead Touch Catacombs to get our first main weapon. In the Dead Touch Catacombs you want to keep moving forward in the dungeon all the way till you get to the other side to pull the lever. Ignore all the skeletons while you're here, and if you die it doesn't matter because the Grace is very close by and it's still the start of the game. Then when you have pulled the lever down, go back to the entrance, and near the Grace an otherwise closed corridor will now be open for you to go through. When you go to the now open entrance you will also see a body laying there that you can loot. And when you loot this body, you will get the Uchi Katana. The Uchi Katana is just a really powerful katana, and you will see why it fits the build very well in a bit. Now that you have the Uchi Katana, you want to go and do the basics to get OP early. If you know, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, but I will quickly go over it so the new players that watch this video also know what I'm talking about. First of all, you want to get the golden pickled fowl food right here in Limgrave. But when you have done so, go to the Third Church of America, pick up the goodies that are laying around here for you to pick up, and then go beyond the church and take the teleport. This will teleport you to exactly here on the map, and you want to go south till you reach Fort Ferret. That's this spot on the map. Ignore all the enemies on the route to the fort, no matter how big they are. And when you arrive at Fort Ferret, you want to pick up a very nice talisman. You want to ignore all the bats while you're running inside and move towards the ladder. Just run, climb up, and then pick up the DEX medallion. This is very important, so don't forget to do that. Then keep moving till you get to the second gap and jump down. Move to the right of yours, pick up the golden rune that's laying around there, and then jump to the sneaky pathway to your right. Keep moving till you can jump down again, and there will be the Radican Sword Shield. If you're not familiar with this talisman, it's a very good talisman that will help us out because it provides a lot of relevant stats right at the start of the game. Then go outside, kill Griel, the big ass dragon, Now with the Uchi Katana, which is going to be one of our main weapons, you can proc bleed and kill Grail really fast. Doing so will give you a bunch of runes. Don't forget to pop the golden pickled foul food right before he dies, so you get an additional 30% in runes when you kill him. Now with these runes, and for the first levels, you definitely want to invest a good bit into vigor, something like this, and it will get boosted with another 5 points with the sword shield. And then get 18 dexterity and put all the rest of the points into intelligence. This is an int dex build. Intelligence is named first for a reason, because intelligence is the more important stat, as the weapons we will use have a higher scaling with intelligence, and our sorceries and ashes of wars will solely scale with intelligence, so you will always want to prioritize putting more points into intelligence compared to dexterity, especially at these levels. Dexterity, however, will help out with casting faster, and at the later stages in the game will complement the remainder of your levels to maximize your damage output when you start getting into soft cap territory for intelligence. As this is a hybrid build, you definitely do want to make use of them both at high levels, but we'll get into that later on. Now with these stat distributions, you'll have a good tanky basis thanks to our investment in vigor, and that is really nice for a Spellblade build, considering you will be in melee territory a lot of the time with this build. At the same time, we don't neglect our damage stats at all and have a good distribution in terms of how you divide your points between intelligence and dexterity. Now we really just want to start working on actually making the build in terms of sorceries and weapons and ashes of wars. First of all, we really just want to get the meteorite staff, and it's close by thankfully. It is the best early game staff without a doubt. Go to the dragon burnt runes in Limgrave, take the teleporter chest that you'll find there, then escape the tunnel it teleports you to by just running out. Make sure to get the grace and keep running away until you get around here. First of all, you will find a staircase, and you will definitely want to go down there, and it will lead you to the great Rock-Sing spell. Definitely pick that thing up, because it is one of the best spells that you can pick up at the start of the game. It deals great damage, and it also deals great poise damage, meaning you will have a nice tool to stance break your opponents relatively easily. Near the spot you will also find the meteorite staff laying around here. Exactly here. Pick it up, because that is without a doubt the best staff that you can pick up at the start of the game. The reason of this is that the meteorite staff has a very high scaling, a S tier scaling right from the get-go. You don't have to go through any effort to upgrade it, as you can't even upgrade it in the first place, but right from the start you'll have a staff with amazing scaling, so your sorceries will deal a lot more damage. It also boosts gravity sorceries, and thankfully we just picked up a gravity sorcery that is probably also the best gravity sorcery in the game. Now Rock Sling is going to be our sorcery for when we want to hit stuff from a large distance. This gives us an additional option as a Spellblade, as pretty much every Spellblade related sorcery is just in melee range, so this is a very nice sorcery to complement the rest of the build with. Now let's work on the Spellblade side of things. First of all, we want to get some more powerful sorceries. Some easy to get and definitely powerful spells are the ones you get from the Royal House scroll found in Limgrave right here. Turning the scroll in at any of your favorite sorcerers will grant you the possibility to buy Carian Slicer and Glintblade Phalanx. Carian Slicer is very nice, it costs very little FP and does great damage for it in return, making it one of the most efficient spells in the game. It also just hits your opponents very fast and staggers them with great damage, and with that you can just usually chain cast this and kill a lot of mobs with it by just spamming the spell. The other spell, Glintblade Phalanx, is a nice early game defensive option, as you can preemptively cast it and have like a defensive magic spell guarding you to then deal good damage when an enemy approaches you. It's also nice when you're facing aggressive enemies that just don't give you the time to cast normal sorceries. You can then cast a spell far away from them, or when you're like just running away, or turn the opposite direction, and then get the damage in reliably when you go near your enemy afterwards, like that. Now these two spells are nice options, and I've covered them before, but it's time to go to the next level and get the trophy of the build. For this you want to go to Carian Manor in the northern part of Lernia. You can access Lernia without going through Stormville like this. Then when you're in Lernia, you want to go to this spot right here. In Carian Manor, first of all, a spell that fits an index build very well can be found near the entrance. You just want to keep going east when you're at the entrance. Ignore the hands as much as you can till you finally arrive at the Scarab. Kill the Scarab and it will grant you the Carian Piercer sorcery. This sorcery is very nice, and you'll want to use it as your hard-hitting poke spell. You can charge it and it has a nice reach. You can just poke enemies from a safe distance with it while dealing great damage, or just finish them off reliably like that. You definitely want to have this sorcery in your roster as a Spellblade. But the main reason we actually came to Carian Manor is found when you progress through this place all the way till you reach the upper levels grace. Here you want to keep going forward and move up the stairs past the giant. You can walk around him if you don't want to go right through him. Then move upwards all the way till you see a gap to your left. Go through the gap and you'll see some jars. Go in their direction. And keep just jumping and jumping and jumping down until you see an item shining in the distance. Now go ahead and grab that thing, because this is the Carian Grandeur Ash of War. Probably the strongest magic Ash of War in the game, and you'll see why in a second. Now that you have the Ash of War, you want to put it on your Uchi Katana, and your Uchi Katana will now have magic damage and scale with intelligence, making it a very good weapon for an intelligence based build. And now it also has a beast of an Ash of War. So the Uchi Katana is already a very good weapon thanks to its Katana moveset, great range and damage. It also has built-in bleed, so you proc bleed on your enemies when you hit them with the sword a few times in a row and deal massive damage that way. And finally, its flexibility is also really nice. You can modify it with all kinds of different affinities and put a lot of Ashes of Wars in it. That's why it's just a really nice contender for putting Carian Grandeur on it. And it has one more benefit I'll talk about later on in the video. Now, I called Carian Grandeur the trophy of the build, and it is an absolute monster of an Ash of War that a lot of people have slept on. It deals some of the highest damage that you will ever possibly see on bosses. And it's an Ash of War that you can get right at the start of a new playthrough. And this damage is without any of the 800 buffs in the game. We're just using the Flask and the pure damage of the Ash of War with very low stats, just the levels we got from killing Grail. And now you already see the potential this Ash of War has, and it only gets better when you actually progress in the game and start getting stronger with talismans, gear, more levels and so forth. So Carian Grandeur has 3 levels of charging, basically giving you a lot of flexibility in how you want to cast it. The longer you charge it, the bigger the sword gets and the higher your damage will be. But in a lot of situations you'll only need the first level of charge, and that one already deals a lot of damage and charges very fast. It will also just smash mobs into the ground, giving you a lot of breathing room in combat and just chain cast the spell basically. Versus bosses, you definitely want to get it charged all the way when you get the opportunity to do so and just smack them with it. It will take a massive chunk of their HP bar with just one swing of this magic sword. If you feel like you won't be able to charge it up all the way because the enemy is going to hit or stagger you soon, then you can just adapt to the situation, because the Ash of War is very flexible, and instead release the button quickly, use its first or second level of charge, hit them with that and still get great damage in. Thanks to its flexibility and the massive damage ceiling, it's just too good. And it will also just straight up outdamage the Moonveil's Ash of War, almost with double the damage with the exact same stats and upgrades to both respective swords. Even the first charge will deal more damage than the Moonveil's Ash of War. Now with Carian Grandeur you can do some insane combos. Something I didn't mention is that Carian Grandeur in itself has great poise damage, so you can easily stance break enemies with it. But a really nice combo is to combine it with Rock Sling. While your enemy is in the distance and moving towards you, you cast a few Rock Slings so you basically poise break them. Because like I said earlier, Rock Sling has very nice poise damage. Then when your enemy's stance is broken, you want to follow it up with a fully charged Carian Grandeur. And because Carian Grandeur gets a bonus and hits even harder when your opponent is stance broken, it will deal massive damage and pretty much just function as an executioner for you. For another really nice combo, we want to pick up another sorcery that you'll also want to add to the roster. This is the Great Blade Phalanx sorcery that you can pick up en route to Carian Manor, where we picked up Carian Grandeur, right here. You'll have to defeat a boss for it, but with some swings with Carian Grandeur, it should be relatively easy. Now the Great Blade Phalanx is basically the same idea as the Glint Blade Phalanx, but you really don't want to use the Great Blade Phalanx for its damage output because it's just simply way too FP inefficient for that. But you definitely want to use it for its stance breaking ability and use it as the first part of a combo, because when the blades of Great Blade Phalanx hit your enemies, the blades will in fact occupy your opponent, in the sense that they'll get staggered and won't be able to attack you, meaning that in this very moment you get all the time to start charging up Carian Grandeur all the way till it's fully charged and smash your opponents with it, completely obliterating them with it. Don't be surprised if you'll just straight up one-shot bosses like this. That's how massive your dick will get with Carian Grandeur. Now if you have made it till this point in the video, then that can only mean one thing: you like the video, so hit that like button. And if you're still not subscribed to me, then this is the moment. Hit that subscribe button, you know you want to do it. Now just a few things before you continue making the build even stronger. If you're familiar with my previous videos, then you know I invented a method that will get your weapon that uses normal smithing stones all the way to plus 16 by just going to 2 places in the game. You can also do that for the magical Uchi Katana with Carian Grandeur, or you can just naturally progress the sword and upgrade it. It is up to you. Getting your sword to plus 16 is really easy though, especially with Carian Grandeur and with my method. As you see, I defeat the Crystallian, which is the only boss you need to defeat to unlock the method to upgrade your sword all the way to plus 16 very easily with Carian Grandeur's Poise Break and insane damage. And mind you, this is with a unupgraded plus 0 Uchi Katana, so the sword is in its base form. And whether you want to upgrade your Uchi Katana plus Carian Grandeur and to exactly which level is up to you. I'll put the method for getting it all the way to plus 16 in the description. Now I also mentioned the Moonveil at the start of the video, and it would be weird not mentioning it in a INT build considering all things. The great thing is however that this popular weapon fits this build very well because you'll want to run the Moonveil with exactly the same stats and setup. So this means this is basically a 2-in-1 build, but it gets even better because our Uchi Katana is a katana as well. This means that you can power stance both the Moonveil and the Uchi Katana and get a bleed katana build that is skilled through intelligence and magic damage and dexterity right at the start of the game, making this build pretty much a 3-way type of build. This adds an additional layer to an already incredibly powerful build, and what this really means is that when you just want to switch it up for a certain area because you don't want to use sorceries for example, or you just feel like slashing things with katanas for a bit in that area, or you're fighting versus things with a lot of magic resistance, you equip both katanas and just power stance and attack your opponents like that instead of using your staff for those fights. With the bleed procs you will just completely decimate your opponents, and because intelligence will always be high for us, our katanas will both deal very nice damage. And to add another layer to that, you can also switch it up between your Moonveil and Uchi Katana by having both of these weapons in your main hand during battle, so you get another option in the Ash of Wars you can use while still holding your staff. And all of these things just makes the build extremely adaptable and gives it a ton of variety, which makes the build a lot of fun. Now you can get the Moonveil in the Gale Tunnel by killing the Magma Worm right here. Killing Magma Worm is quite easily with yet again Carian Grandeur. You just stance break this worm, then accordingly hit him with Carian Grandeur, and then you'll just ask yourself one question: where did this guy's HP bar go? After killing the Magma Worm you will get the Moonveil. The Moonveil's main selling point is basically its Ash of War. It's just really good. The Ash of War can be cast as either a horizontal or a vertical slash, basically to attack your opponents with it, and both deal great damage versus both bosses and packs of mobs, and you just want to use whichever variation you want depending on how the enemies are standing in front of you or how far they are from you. The vertical slash has the longer range of the two. The Moonveil's Ash of War won't deal more damage than Carian Grandeur as I showed you before, but it's a very nice alternative option as the moonlight from the Ash of War comes out very fast and it's just extremely easy to hit any opponent in the game with it, and you can just spam it as well. That's why it's also that popular and also really hated by a lot of people at the same time. But it's definitely one of the best INT weapons in the game. Now that you have the Moonveil and the magical Carian Grandeur based Uchi Katana, if you followed my upgrade route for the Uchi Katana, you will have it at plus 16, and you can do the same thing to the Moonveil basically, but in that case with using Somber Smithing Stones. You can buy Somber Smithing Stone 1 to 4 for relatively cheap by talking to Ichi, again on the road to Carian Manor. He's right next to the Grace right here, so it is easy peasy lemon squeezy getting your Moonveil to plus 4. Then you can also get a Somber Smithing Stone 5 by going back to the Celia Crystal Tunnel, the tunnel we teleported to by using the teleporter chest earlier on in this video to get our staff. Go outside of the tunnel, mount up, and basically keep moving forward while hugging the right side of this area till you get to exactly this opening. Go to the right here and make your way to the end of the path where you will find the Somber Smithing Stone number 5. There is also a Somber Smithing Stone number 6 in the Celia Crystal Tunnel itself. You'll have to progress and move up and down various times. Ignore or kill off all the annoying ass enemies in this cave. Whatever you want to do, but just keep progressing till you get to the boss in this room exactly. Defeat the boss. It should again be not too hard with Carian Grandeur. The Ash of War just can't do it all. But if you struggle with any of these bosses, you can always just use Spirit Ashes to make it easier. And that is a really good tip for beginner players. If you want to make this insanely OP build even more OP, get Spirit Ashes, summon them while fighting, and let them tank for you while you cast your sorceries, Ashes of Wars, and attack with your weapon. It will be the easiest time of your life like that, and you will just completely destroy the game. After killing the boss, you will now get Somber Smithing Stone 6, and this means that with all the previous stones and this stone, you can upgrade your Moonveil all the way to +6. And this is more than enough for now. You can go even beyond that if you really want, but it's really not worth the hassle in my opinion. Now you'll have a +6 Moonveil and a +16 Uchi Katana and a S+ tier staff. And you are now the strongest Spellblade that has ever existed. So let's now talk a bit about the Flask, gear and talismans that you want to run with this build. For the Flask, it is a no-brainer. You want to get the Intelligence node. It gives a boost to Intelligence, a whopping +10 to the Intelligence stat, which is very nice this early on. You can find this crystal here right outside of Carian Manor, the place you'll have to go to anyways for Carian Grandeur, so that is very convenient. It is right here for you to pick up. Then for the other crystal tier for the Flask, you just want to pick up the magic surrounding crack tier by defeating the Erdtree avatar near the Erdtree in the northern part of Lernia. It is basically on the other side. This Erdtree is extremely tanky and hits very hard, and it's definitely not something you usually defeat this early on in the game, but like I said, and I think you get it by now, nothing is impossible with Carian Grandeur. Just look at that insane damage. If you have difficulties defeating him, then you can also just keep distance and spam Rock Sling, and you'll defeat him like that instead. When you defeat him, you will get the magic surrounding crack tier, which will increase the damage of all our magic, so our Ashes of Wars, our magic damage on our weapons, and our sorceries, all with a whopping +20%. So this crystal tier is a no-brainer as well. Mix both crystal tiers in the Flask and start using that thing. For gear, you don't really have to worry about it in the early game. Just play the game, and as you progress through the game and do some quests, you will unlock the possibility to get the Spellblade set. When you have done so, you definitely want to equip this set, as each piece of the set will increase the damage output of Carian Grandeur. For the second talisman, you'll want to go to the Altus Plateau region and definitely want to get the Godfrey icon as soon as you can. Considering we have multiple chargeable sorceries and more importantly Carian Grandeur, this thing will make our damage output even better. You want to go to this place specifically and kill the boss there. The boss is again very tanky and definitely not an early game boss at all, but with how OP my build is, you should be able to destroy him as well and get that second talisman to make Carian Grandeur hit even harder. Now this is not all. This video will have a follow-up where the Spellblade or my Samurai Mage gets a twist and becomes a different character based on things that unlock in the later parts of the game. That will be the late game version of this build. For now, you have the strongest possible in-dex build that you can possibly make at the start of the game, that also has a lot of variety in it as well, which makes it so much fun, and you can already just destroy the entire game with my Spellblade build like this. But definitely stay tuned for my follow-up video, you don't want to miss it. Don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe and hit the bell thing so you are the first to get notified when I upload something, and let me know your thoughts in the comments.